So we are snowed in here in Tennessee. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying warm wherever you are. We don't normally get this kind of weather around here, so we'll probably be closed down for a damn month after this one. But I woke up this morning, I was reading some headlines, and I stumbled across one that was a few days old. But I laughed out loud when I read it. And of course, I said to myself, this has to be a spoof. This has to be satire. There's no way someone could be dumb enough to say this. But when it comes to Laura Loomer, you can rest assured she's always dumb enough to say something like this. She took to Twitter and she wrote this. Is the deep state activating HAARP to disrupt the Iowa caucus? We all know Nikki Haley has a lot of friends in the defense industry and military-industrial complex. She's losing in Iowa, and now Iowa is set to get hit with a once-in-a-decade, and she put that in all caps, a once-in-a-decade blizzard as Donald Trump is set to dominate the Iowa caucus. Is the deep state using HAARP to rig the Iowa caucus? Looks like weather manipulation to me. And then someone replied to that and said, I've literally been thinking the same. The tornadoes, massive storms across the U.S., and now this. Too many coincidences. You know, I cannot imagine looking out at the weather we have here in East Tennessee and thinking that my political opponent may have caused it. And if I honestly believe that my political opponent had that kind of power, I might start to question things and say to myself, maybe if they possess that kind of power, maybe I should vote for that side. These people never think these things through. And when something comes along that they can't explain, like the weather, like a tornado or like a snowstorm, they can't explain it. So now that must be the Democrats, that must be Nikki Haley, that must be the deep state coming after Trump. So, of course, people started making fun of Laura Loomer for this. Of course, the comments just started pouring in with people poking fun at her. And when that happened, she goes back on Twitter and she says this. She says, the media has no sense of humor. Besides, everyone knows who really controls the weather, and she shared a picture of her with Donald Trump. Now, when you go back and read what it was she said, there was no sense of humor there. She wasn't trying to make a funny. She wasn't trying to get one up on somebody. She was literally speculating and believing that Nikki Haley could have had something to do with disrupting the Iowa caucus by sending a snowstorm. And then when she realized that people was going to poke fun at her, then she had to say, oh, well, it was just a joke. The media has no sense of humor. And then shares a picture of Trump and says, we know who really controls the weather. Here's the funny part. If Donald Trump told his followers that he sent that snowstorm, they would believe it. If he told them that he controlled the weather, they would believe it. Or if he said Joe Biden sent this snowstorm, they would believe it. There is no headline out there that is too outrageous for MAGA. Whenever you read a headline, you should always look into it and see if it's really true. Make sure it's not satire. Make sure it's not The Onion. But I can promise you that if you see a headline and you say, there's no way in the world this could possibly be true, it can be true when it comes to MAGA Republicans. If you see the names Laura Loomer, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, the My Pillow guy, if you see their names attached to a quote, go ahead and look into it first, but you can pretty much rest assured they would be dumb enough to say it. And if they didn't really say it, you can go find a list of their quotes, and there will be stuff on there dumber than the satire that someone wrote. That's where we're at. They actually believe that their political opponents could control the weather, and they're blaming. Now, if something goes wrong and Trump loses, which I don't think that he will, I think he's going to be the nominee, but I'm just saying, if something were to happen now, they will blame it on the weather. The weather. You know, I can't imagine being so, engrossed in a politician that I believed everything he said. I question everything Joe Biden says. I don't just take his word for it. I dig in and question what it is that he says. And I can promise you that if I was standing alongside my progressive and liberal friends and we were listening to Joe Biden speak and he said, Donald Trump sent this snowstorm, he manipulated the weather, I would look at my friends and be like, did he really just say that? There's no way I would sit there and go, yeah, man, I've been thinking the same thing. I wouldn't play along with it. When is the voice of reason ever going to come back out in these people and go, hey, this is kind of crazy. I understand hating Joe Biden. Hate him all day if you want to. I understand, you want to support your guy and just go down on your sword with him, fine, whatever. But manipulating the weather? You think your political rival could do that? Then vote for your political rival because you don't stand a shot.